Today, I'll take you on a behind-the-scenes tour of my Portland, Oregon studio space. Well, hey everyone, it's Hudson. Welcome to this Approaching the Scene. I want to thank everybody who's been watching these videos, who's been liking, sharing, subscribing. That support means so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, there's always a little button, a little symbol down in the bottom right corner that you can click to do it. You know, the content in this channel is really driven by you as an audience, and I take so much from the comments that you put here on the YouTube channel, or comments that you send me through social media or via email. And also, you know, the interaction that I'm having with everybody on my regular Tuesday morning office hours that we've been doing through the course of the pandemic. Every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., free to sign up. You just go to hudsonhenry.com/office hours. And we get a big group together on Zoom and we talk about things photographic. This next Tuesday, I'm planning to talk about some principles of composition. I often have other photographers that I work with and run workshops with come in as guests and join me. Rick LePage is with me a lot when he can. I've had David Archer in, and it's a great group discussion. Everyone submits questions. We often do people submitting images and talk about those images too in the office hour. So I hope you'll join in on that. One of the things that's come out of the whole office hour discussion and people sending in comments and stuff is wanting to know a little bit more about my studio layout, behind the scenes, behind the part of my studio that you guys generally see. When people that are in workshops with me come into town, you know, I often have people over that I know well, or other photographers come that have seen these videos and they step into the studio, they're like, wow, it's a lot bigger than I expected. So today I'm going to kind of pull the veil off, get out of the regular studio lighting, use a little GoPro, and show you guys kind of the space that I work in. And then I'll take a question that I had. Actually, a few people have been asking me about which ultra wide angle Nikon lens they should choose from, whether they're working with, particularly in the mirrorless era, as we're making this kind of DSLR mirrorless transition choice. So, all right, so I'm going to talk about some of the things that I love most about my studio, give you a little history on why it's the way it is, and just show you how the whole thing works. So I'm going to take you on the tour with my my little GoPro Hero 7 Black that I use for a lot of B-roll kind of stuff. It's nice wide angle. And I'm going to flip on a whole bunch of lighting here in the studio. I normally have a view when I'm filming that looks a bit like this. Most of the studio is pretty darkened, except my studio mate Andy's part of the room. He's not here because of the pandemic. But normally we have this kind of controlled lighting setup, mostly up in the overhead, bunch of hot lights. I'm going to flip on the main lighting so that you can see your way around. I'm going to run with the GoPro. I'm going to show you some of my favorite things about the studio. So hang on a sec. All right, you guys, I'm off to the studio. My favorite thing about my studio is my daily commute, which is just out my back kitchen door, across the porch, through the yard, and I'm just, you know, really, really blessed to have this nice natural space that's inspirational for me as a creative, and at the same time, work and home are kind of one spot, which is awesome, of course, now that we're all sort of sheltering in place. My garage kind of doubles as a workout area and storage place for a lot of toys, skis, kiteboarding, canoe. Got my good buddy Rick's motorcycle. Walk right through, up the stairs, and into Printerville. It's not a bad commute. All right, so I'll start the studio tour off here where everybody's not used to seeing, kind of the opposite end of the studio, and then I'll work into the part of the studio that you're more familiar with. And I'm gonna run with this GoPro. I've got all of my lights in the place turned up so that we can really see stuff. The studio's nickname is Printerville. And it's that because you'll see there's a ton of printers in here and a lot of people who love to print. So almost everything in Printerville is on wheels. All the shelves, we use a lot of baker's racks like this for storage so that we can roll them around, make things nice and modular. This is the end with the stairwell where you come up. There's a bathroom. I got a comfy chair here. This area over by those windows is my buddy Andy's work area when we're not in a pandemic. Coming back around here, I got my kind of reading chair and area. And there's a futon just for hanging out and potentially, you never know, you might need to stay a night. More of these baker's racks. And the first of the printers, I got my original favorite printer, which is an Epson HP Z3200, has a built-in spectrophotometer, so you can create your own paper and print profiles. It was way ahead of its time, and I always have felt bad that Epson didn't, or that Hewlett-Packard didn't kind of continue with that series of printers because there was a lot of promise and they do really, really nice work. I've got some drawers for prints. I got some folding tables that I can put out in the middle of the room because this is a pretty big, wide open space. If you look up, you'll notice that the ceiling's kind of half finished. It's half rough particle board and half cedar. And every time I get a break, I put more cedar up. The back half is all done. This half where you come in, it's still a work in progress. It's one of my little projects. I get a lot of joy from coming in and doing construction stuff. I got a big whiteboard we can move around the room. I use it for notes when I'm doing videos, to plan projects and whatnot. I've got a couple of different camera setups here in the middle of the room pointing back at the part of the studio that I'm usually working in and recording my videos. I've got a little webcam I've been using in office hours and Zoom mounted to a little Benro, my ultra lightweight fluid head setup. And then I've got my Z6. I won't go into the whole setup, but I've got a 7-inch monitor and a really nice Tascam audio recorder that's hooked into Sony wireless lav mics, and the whole thing's powered externally through a Tether Tools case relay switch. And over here, we've got my good buddy Andy's work area. He's an amazing filmmaker and studio mate of mine. The kitchen's on one side, his work area is on the other. We can close those curtains down when needed, but sadly, because of the pandemic, he's just torn his space to pieces and taken what he needs home, and he's working out of his basement so that if one of our families gets infected, both of our families aren't infected. We got the bathroom back here and that little kind of cutout there. And again, you know, his desk is on wheels. Everything's basically on wheels. The big table that you guys see me at generally, it's on wheels. The printers are on wheels. I've got some storage cabinets over here behind the whiteboard. More printers. I've got a good old Epson film scanner, a V700. That's actually Rick LePage's. But Sonos speaker for listening to the radio off the computer. I've got a nice newer Epson P600, just if you want to do a quick small print, really high quality, nice printer. Inside these cabinets, there's lots of framing stuff, and there's ink galore for printers. There's thousands of dollars of printer ink in there. We've got my buddy Duncan's old Epson 4800 here, which is a great, I think, what does it do? 20-inch roll feed, or I think maybe 17, I can't remember, but does really, really nice prints. It's got its own kind of rolling cabinet. I've got a lot of my field gear stored over here. You'll notice that I hang my backpacks. So I've got my two most used backpacks in the mirrorless era, which is my f-stop Talopa and my gosh, what's the name of it? It's a Osprey Camber 42, which is a great sort of adventure pack if you're backcountry skiing or mountain biking. And I got my kind of tripod force over here, and then my big main printer. You're starting to see why we call it Printerville, huh? My big main printer is an Epson Stylus Pro 9900, which does 40-inch roll feed. And I've got, you know, the rolling desk here by Ergo Depot with my PC set up, everything kind of computer mounted underneath. It's a height adjustable, so I hit a switch, I can lower it and sit in a nice Aeron chair if my back is feeling like sitting down, or I can raise it up and work standing. And there's a ton of lighting. Now I have a couple of windows here that look out onto my house and driveway and yard, and you can see because they're behind my editing setup, I've put blackout panels, custom cut blackout panels. I can remove those if I'm not going to be editing or if I'm not going to be shooting video, but most of the time I keep those things covered because the last thing I want is a bunch of backlight behind my monitors while I'm working. So over here we got some storage area that my buddy Andy keeps stuff. Behind that there's a big 60-inch lamination machine. We've got a little printer that we use a lot to just do documents and stuff, and then a bunch more of Andy's stuff. And then you come to the big desk where we have a lot of meetings, we hang out, I shoot these videos. Again, everything is on wheels, so we can configure this thing. And I'm gonna just for a second talk about all the stuff in the overhead, because that's a whole nother interesting thing. You think about shooting videos and you don't think about how many lights you have set up and running. So right now there are a whole bunch of tungsten balanced lights mixed in with my normal lighting. You know, I have some even fluorescents that I can pull a chain and turn on and off to get more light in here. I've got some soundproofing baffles up here just right above the desk to help with audio so it doesn't sound quite so echoey. I've got soft boxes and LED panels all set to be tungsten colored. This is a fluorescent Kino with tungsten balanced bulbs in it. And the great thing is, you know, if I come over here, I'm moving back over to the top of the stairs, and I shut down the lighting except for my video lighting, all of a sudden that's the lighting you guys are accustomed to seeing in my videos. It's all tungsten balanced. I turn on the rest of it and it's really how we would work in the studio on a normal basis. So the other thing that you'll see in the overhead is there's these little cables running around, these blue cables, and you'll see these kind of U-Haul moving blankets strung up in different areas. There's another one over here. And we can actually cordon off sections to isolate ourselves or to create even better sound. Say we're doing interviews. You can drop this curtain stuff, draw them across, and create separation between us if we're working on multiple projects. And it's great, much better sound getting in sort of a box that's curtained off. So essentially, that is my studio. The reason that I have it is years ago, before I was ever doing photography as my professional living, back when I was a lawyer, I bought this property in Southwest Portland that's got about an acre, and it was a farmhouse that was built in the 20s, 1926. The whole area was a dairy, and it was the last piece that had the original farmhouse on an acre of land with a little stream flowing through. And I tore the house down to the studs and rebuilt it and built a wraparound porch, did a lot of the work myself, and then planned this 4-car garage kind of project area with the studio on top. And I was getting heavily into photography, and I thought of it as a studio when I built it. So I designed this space to be really usable as a studio. And then, as you can see, it's kind of been a work in progress and continues to be. And my greatest joy is to work with other people in here. It's been a little tough through the pandemic being in here by myself as much as I've been. But, you know, what a joy that I have it and that I don't have to travel very far from my home. So hope you've enjoyed. That's I won't subject you to talking to a GoPro any more than I have to in these videos, but it was a good way to just kind of show you my space. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little bit better sense of the space where I work and do projects beyond just the corner where I shoot these videos. You know, I had a great question from several people. I've had a couple people ask this in my Tuesday office hours. Again, if you want to join up for that interactive group meeting Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., we're going to talk about the basics of composition. Just go to www.hudsonhenry.com/office hours. But I had a question there. It also came in on a Facebook message to me, and I've had people email me about kind of the choice between the tried and true Nikon 14 to 24 millimeter full frame ultra wide angle lens that I have used for, gosh, more than a decade. It's been kind of my bread and butter ultra wide angle, a lens I swore by and carried the tank-like weight and size in my bag. It's got that built-in hood with a rounded cap. For those of you that have it, a little gaff tape around the edge of this cap, just kind of fold it over, makes it so that it fits nice and snug and doesn't fall off. It's 2.2 pounds, this lens, and it takes a huge space in your bag. I've been carrying it so little that it's actually in my bin of things I'm planning to sell. I'm going to sell it along with the D850. And I'm just going to rely on this Nikon 14 to 30 millimeter Z lens. And the reason being, it takes 82 millimeter filters. It's nice and light. It is f4 instead of f2.8. It doesn't have much focus breathing. One of the big problems with this is if you have a scene with something really close up, say you want to put this lens close up in the frame at 14 millimeters, if you try to do any focus stacking and you focus really close and then focus out at infinity, it breathes. It changes focal length a bit as it does that with the old 14 to 24. The new one does not. Now, it's not razor sharp edge to edge at f4. You need to stop down to f5.6 or 6.3 to get to where it really gets sweet. But in most cases doing landscape photography, that's really not a big problem when you're in wide angle scenes. You can have a real slow shutter speed, even hand holding. The ISOs are getting so good in the modern cameras, particularly the Nikon Z6 that I'm filming this with. The fact that it takes 82 millimeter neutral density filters, the Hoya Solus filters that I just love, kind of makes it a no-brainer for me. It snaps down, gets compact. A lot of people complain about the Z lenses retracting and having to pop out to work. For me, that just makes them smaller in my camera bag. The difference in weight between this is 50%. The difference in size is 50%. This is 1.07 pounds. This is 2.2 pounds. It's more than double the weight. Now, and in between, that's not much heavier than the 14 to 30 is Nikon's new really sharp, really nice 20 millimeter 1.8. Throws a beautiful Sunstar, razor sharp edge to edge. It's really sharp, wide open at f1.8 and stays sharp at the wider apertures. It's a real nice performing lens. No focus breathing that I've found in it either. Very little chromatic aberration, although I haven't tested it with Milky Way yet for coma, but it's sweet. And the only problem with it is it's nowhere near as versatile as a 14 to 30. The difference between 14 and 20 is huge. You're talking about a massive, massive difference percentage-wise going from 14 to 20. The difference between 20 and 30, not as big as that difference from 14 to 20, but also big. The fact that you can hit all of those focal lengths with this makes it a really versatile performer. And it's a lot smaller, and it's slightly less weight, not much. This is 4/100ths of a pound more. This is 1.11 pounds versus 1.07 pounds, according to B&H's specs on their website. So for me, if you had to pick one of these moving into the future, given that mirrorless is really where it's at and evolving, all the cameras are evolving towards mirrorless, and Nikon is definitely putting their R&D into mirrorless, and these lenses are wonderful. I'm going to say get the 14 to 30 or wait for the new 14 to 24 that's coming for the Z mount. I'm gonna drop this one out of my kit. I haven't carried it in probably a year, to be honest with you. I've done well enough with this, and I have a 14 millimeter that I use for star work that's a Rokinon, which I'm hoping that this lens is going to augment. And I'm also hoping for that new 14 to 24 whenever it comes out. I know that the fact that we've had this whole pandemic thing is disrupting supply chains is probably delaying all new cameras and lenses significantly, but that's one I'm excited and will pre-order. It will be big, it will be expensive, and I'm hoping it will be really, really good and fix a few of the flaws with this one. So that's my take. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing. It makes a huge, huge difference. I hope to see you in office hours next Tuesday, 10 a.m. sign up, hudsonhenry.com/office hours. We'll see you next week.